Okay, we're back on the air with Dr. David Klein of the Stages of Life Institute, and today we're going to be talking about quick ways to make yourself feel better. Is there such a thing? Yeah, there is, Doctor.
Okay, well, let's figure this out. Okay, you're a very complicated, very complex machine. And machines need a lot of different things to operate smoothly and efficiently. The right fuel, the right lubrication, the right maintenance. And you are no different. The problem, okay, is that we've oversimplified our approach to our own lives. We'll eat foods that we know are supposed to be healthy. We try to eat things that are good for us. We like to eat things that make us feel better, but we don't really necessarily pay attention to the other aspects of our personal maintenance. So as you go through life, you start to feel a little crummy. Your stomach doesn't quite act the way it's supposed to. You find yourself having to pop Tums or Prilosec or some of these others because your stomach is upset. You have to knock yourself out at night because something isn't right. The antidepressants, the blood pressure medications, there are lots of things that we do that go to treat those sorts of symptoms and signs that demonstrate that things are not operating smoothly. So what are you doing wrong? What are you doing right? Well, you're cutting back in your carbohydrates. Brilliant, okay? You may be a decade late or 2 decades late, but better late than never. You might be cutting back in the saturated fats. Brilliant. But what are you doing to replace the things that are not in your diet, whether you're eating at Whole Foods or whether you're eating at the junk food store? The most common of all nutrient deficiencies that make us all feel pretty crummy are mineral related. Not necessarily fish oil, not necessarily vitamins, and certainly not these superfoods with color in them. What you're missing, first and foremost, are the minerals. And what's really, really interesting is you're feeling run down, you're feeling depressed, your cholesterol's going up, you can't sleep at night, and frequently this is a manifestation of a collection of mineral deficiencies, most likely magnesium, zinc, selenium, vanadium, chromium. So the first thing that I do when somebody comes in and they don't look right, when they don't feel right, there's something wrong, and they want to go about correcting it without spending a lot of money and without spending a lot of effort in terms of diagnostics, is to get them started on a chelated mineral complex. Now, what does this do? It's generally a balanced mixture. There are good ones, there are bad ones, there are some that are better than others, okay? But what it does is it gives you a collection of those minerals in the appropriate, hopefully, appropriate balance, okay, to correct, treat, prevent, or forestall the development of diabetes, Alzheimer's, thyroid disease, and some of these others. Okay, right now we're looking at Alzheimer's disease as being an inflammatory condition. Go figure this one out. It's not the nerves falling apart. Some people call this diabetes type 3. It's an inflammatory condition of the brain. Okay, you have it elsewhere. What modulates, what sorts of things can you do to fix this? So the place that I start is with a mineral chelate. The one that I prefer is called Magic Minerals. Why? Because it's the appropriate balance. It contains no gluten. It contains no soy. And it's inexpensive. Okay, but it'll cost you between $20 and $24 a month. Very, very reasonable for about everything that you need on a mineral basis. Now, if you have diabetes, generally I add additional vanadium and additional chromium. Why would I do that? Because with diabetes, it's a vanadium and chromium deficiency. But to get things started, you're feeling pretty crummy. The Magic Minerals is a good way to start. How long does it take for it to work? 2 or 3 days typically. You start to feel better 3-4 days after you start it, and then you start feeling pretty darn good. That effect lasts a week or two, and then you start feeling normal. It's very, very interesting the way the brain works. The body works differently. Well, what else do you do? If you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night, you're feeling crummy in the morning, fatigued, you feel wired, tired, this is a sign of adrenal fatigue. So what do we do for that? Well, you can take adrenal supplementations. These are glandular extracts, okay, that replace the 150 different adrenal hormones. And guess what? 1 or 2 in your system may well be lacking. What could they be? It's usually cortisol, DHEA, pregnenolone, typically testosterone, okay? And you can replace these things modestly by using these adrenal glandulars. And there are many of these available. Some are better than others. Okay, you just have to shop them out, and it's like buying shoes. You want to see what's right for you, because consistency in treating these illnesses is what it's all about. It's like being a good bartender. A good bartender will give you the same drink the same way every time. A good chef will give you the right medium fillet every time, exactly as you want it. That cheesecake is going to look exactly the same each time. If it's inconsistent, you never go back to that restaurant. And it's the same thing with your nutraceuticals. So the quality is terribly important. What's interesting and the challenge is not overpaying for the privilege of getting quality. And that's what I try to get across to people, is that just because something's expensive doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean it's quality. Just because something's inexpensive doesn't mean that it's of low quality. It is all over the board. You can get yourself a Mercedes on a VW budget if you know what to look for with these things. And that's really very, very important. Well, what else do you do? Okay, well, you're feeling kind of run down. What are you going to do? Now, I heard on another station an advertisement for Rhodiola rosea. God, I thought this was funny. Okay, this is a $12 to $14 medication. They were getting a bloody fortune for it, okay, as if it were something new. This stuff has been around for 1,000 years or more. It was worked out by the Russian cosmonaut program. Surprisingly, they didn't mention that, okay? But what they did was they found that this particular herb gives you a bump of energy but doesn't have any cardiac drag attached to it. What does that mean? It means it's not going to give you a heart attack. Makes you feel better briefly. So for an hour or two, rhodiola is very, very important. So you may want to try this. It's something that will give you a little bit of a bump when you need it without costing your heart or costing your brain or costing your blood pressure or anything. And that's very, very important. Well, what else? Okay, so if minerals is the most important of all of these approaches, and I would suggest that if you're feeling bad, that's the place to start. The adrenal issue is something that takes a little bit more guidance, but it doesn't really hurt to try it if you choose to. But oddly enough, what we suffer from mostly in our society is an oil deficiency. Now, we're not talking about petroleum. We're not talking about that which powers your vehicles. What we're talking about is dietary fatty acids, typically of the omega-3 variety. Now, there are others, very, very interestingly, but the omega-3 fatty acids are absent in our diet. Now, why is this important? Because we're getting lots and lots of omega-6s, but the omega-3 to 6 balance is what keeps you from having a heart attack. So what do? So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy omega-3, 6, 9, like that's going to do something for me, and all you're doing is taking more of the garbage, and it never restores the balance. So you need to look for the omega-3 fatty acids, and we're not talking about the expensive krill oil products. You're going to hear people talk about krill. Now, what you're talking there is you have to take 15 to 20 of those capsules a day, not the 1 or 2 on the bottle, but 15 or more to get the 1,500 milligrams of omega-3s that you need. Okay, that's every day you need to do that.
Now, first of all, we've been talking about various things. Do we have a blood test before we start any regimen?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I prefer it, but it's not essential.
Now, what kind of nutraceuticals, what kind of supplements? Let's go over the ones we've mentioned and what else is out there. I noticed we didn't mention Inositol.
That's one of your current favorites.
It's on my new list.
The first place that you start is with the chelated minerals. Okay, why? Because it cleans a lot of the nonsense right off the plate. It takes out an awful lot of illness that's subclinical. So the magic minerals is very, very simple. You take 2 capsules twice a day, 2 with breakfast, 2 with dinner, and you're done for the day. $20 to $24 a month is what the stuff costs. Now, for a child, a kid maybe up to 10 or 12 years of age, 1 twice a day is sufficient. Well, what else do you need? The fish oil, the one that I prefer, is ours, called Heart and Soul. It's caught off the coast of Chile, okay, which is sort of interesting. The North Atlantic stuff is okay, but there are problems with heavy metals in the Atlantic. South Atlantic, not so much. Pacific, not so much. So we prefer this. It's actually cooked right there on the shipboard. It's kind of interesting. And again, it's $20 to $22 a month. It's very, very inexpensive. 1 gel cap twice daily. Marvelous. You need to be taking a B complex. Okay, and as long as the B complex does not contain soy, you're good to go. So you have to read it. B complex, it could be B50, could be B100, but it must not contain anything that looks like soy, soybean oil, or lecithin. Vitamin D3, 5,000 IUs daily. Very, very important. It cuts your risk of breast cancer, testicular, or prostate issues in half. Marvelous, marvelous stuff. And my most favorite one recently is called Inositol. Rob mentioned Inositol. Why? Because I had a hunch on this stuff about, 16 weeks ago. 1 gram twice a day. That's 2 capsules twice daily. What this stuff does is it cuts your craving for substances like coffee, like certain foods, like alcohol perhaps. And why? Because it's a primary antidepressant, okay, which is very, very important. It's been shown to increase rat longevity, which is the human model, by the way, by 30%. Now, this stuff costs $12 a month. So if it's going to increase your longevity, make you feel better, make you feel more focused. Oh, and then the other major side effect of it is it will lower your cholesterol. $12 a month, Inositol.
Wow. Now, again, folks, all of this is available to you either over the internet or if you want to take a really scenic and a beautiful drive to Longwood, Florida, you can do that by connecting with the Stages of Life. And to do that, you've got to connect with Robin.
Well, connect with us. Come on in to Stages of Life Medical Institute. We are located in Longwood at 1917 Booth Circle. That's right off of I-4 and 434. Our office hours and health store hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. Our phone number is 407-679-3337. Our website is stagesoflife.net. If you can't make it in, get online, click on the Stages of Life store, and that'll take you right to our nutraceutical store online.